They threw her into the mud, face first, hard enough that gravel tore skin, hard enough that breath left her lungs in one sharp gasp, hard enough that for a moment, just one flickering moment, the world tilted sideways and the gray North Carolina sky spun overhead like a carousel of contempt. Lieutenant Commander Elena Castellanos hit the ground the way a stone hits water. No grace, no warning, just impact in the cold embrace of earth mixing with rainwater, soaking through contractor fatigues that carried no rank, no insignia, no shield against the arrogance of men who thought they knew what strength looked like. They were wrong, but they didn't know that yet. The laughter came next, loud, crude, the kind that echoes across training yards and lodges itself in memory like shrapnel. Four voices blending into one mocking chorus celebrating a woman brought low, a civilian put in her place, a reminder that this world belonged to warriors and she was just visiting. One of them spoke. The words don't matter. They never do. What mattered was the tone, dismissive, final. The sound of a door closing, a judgment rendered, a sentence passed by judges too young and too stupid to understand they just made the worst mistake of their lives. Elena stayed down for 3 seconds, not because she couldn't rise, because she was counting violations, counting witnesses, counting the ways this moment would become evidence. The tactical breathing of Navy SEALs, the rhythm that steadies the heart before the trigger squeeze, before the breach, before the violence that competence makes look easy. She rose slowly, deliberately, mud streaking her cheek like war paint applied by careless hands, blood mixing with dirt on palms torn by gravel. One knee of her pants soaked dark, shoulder already blooming, purple beneath the fabric. The laughter faded, not completely, but enough, because something in the way she stood made the air change. Back straight, shoulders level. Feet planted shoulder width apart with the kind of balance that doesn't come from gym memberships or weekend warrior training. The kind that comes from carrying wounded teammates across hostile ground, from holding sniper positions for 16 hours without moving, from surviving things these boys couldn't imagine in their safest nightmares. She didn't speak, not yet, just looked at them with eyes that had seen 47 men die through a scope, eyes that had calculated wind drift and bullet drop, while mortars fell close enough to taste the cordite, eyes that belonged to a ghost they just summoned without knowing her name. This is where the story begins. 3 days earlier, Virginia Beach, Naval Special Warfare Command headquarters rising like a monument to controlled violence beside the Atlantic. Elena Castellanos sat across a desk from Captain Morrison, a man whose silver star sat beside a photograph of Coronado's surf zone at dawn and listened to orders that would change everything. Covert investigation, Ironwood Military Academy, North Carolina. 3 female cadets quit in 6 months. Harassment complaints buried by chain of command. Anonymous email received at Nav SpecWar with subject line that made Morrison's jaw tighten. Just like Tailhook 91. Only insiders knew Tailhook, the Navy's shame. The convention where female aviators were assaulted while officers looked away. The institutional rot that took decades to excise and left scars still visible if you knew where to look. Someone inside Ironwood was screaming for help in code. Someone who knew military history. Someone who understood that certain sins repeat themselves until someone stops them. Morrison slid a folder across the desk. Thin, classified, 3 names inside with photographs attached. Cadet Maria Gonzalez. Quit month 2. Cited hostile environment. Complaint filed. Dismissed as failure to adapt. Cadet Jennifer Walsh. Quit month 4. Reported physical intimidation. Investigating officer concluded insufficient evidence. Cadet Rachel Kim. Quit month 5. Sexual harassment documented in writing. Chain of command determined she was too sensitive for military service. 3 women, 3 complaints, 3 failures of leadership. Pattern recognized. Elena studied the photos. Young faces, determined eyes in intake photographs that slowly dimmed in later pictures until something fundamental went out like a candle in high wind. She'd seen that look before. In mirrors. In reflections on blackened windows during Hell Week when the Pacific cold made bones ache and instructors screamed that girls didn't belong and 42 men waited for her to quit. She hadn't. Master Chief Daniel Hawkins made sure of that. Not through kindness, through expectation. Through one sentence delivered in the surf zone while she shivered hard enough to crack teeth. Show them. 2 words. 13 years of career built on that foundation. 2 Bronze Stars and 1 Silver Star later. 47 confirmed kills across 3 combat theaters. Fallujah, Ramadi, Kandahar, classified missions whose after-action reports carried code names instead of locations and stayed buried in vaults where secrets go to age like whiskey. Ghost, that was her call sign, given after Kandahar, after she took a round through the left forearm and kept firing for 40 minutes to cover a Marine platoon's extraction, one hand working the bolt, blood running down the stock. 12 kills that day. 12 Taliban fighters who thought they had Americans trapped learned what a SEAL sniper looks like when pain becomes background noise and mission becomes everything. The scars still pulled when rain came. Puckered skin, through and through, 308 caliber. 2 inches from the radial artery, close enough that the medic's hands shook when he packed the wound, close enough that she should have bled out. Didn't. SEALs don't quit, not in surf zones, not under fire, not when it matters most. Morrison briefed the mission parameters. Go undercover, contractor uniform, civilian identification, no backup, no support, completely alone. Document the culture, find the rot, report findings, standard covert investigation. Except for one detail. Commander understands something clearly. If you are compromised, if your cover is blown, you're on your own. No extraction, no cavalry. We can't acknowledge NAVSPEC war involvement until investigation concludes. You'll be alone out there. Elena nodded once, sharp, decisive, the kind of nod that ends conversations. Alone was familiar territory. Every SEAL knows it. The moment in darkness before the breach, when you stop being part of a team and become responsible for keeping teammates alive through decisions made in fractions of seconds. The loneliness of the trigger, the isolation of consequence. She'd been alone before. This would be no different. Morrison stood, extended his hand. Dutch would be proud. Master Chief Hawkins, dead 3 years, Afghanistan, covering a team's extract when he should have boarded the helicopter first. Senior man, most experienced, should have survived. But Dutch was Dutch, always the last one out, always making sure everyone else made it home. He didn't that time. Elena took the mission folder, saluted, turned to leave. Morrison's voice stopped her at the door. Commander, these girls who quit, they did nothing wrong. The system failed them. Don't let it fail another one. She looked back. It won't, sir. Promise made, promise kept. That was 3 days ago. Now she stood in Ironwood's training yard watching the system fail in real time. Rain had stopped an hour before her arrival, but the ground hadn't recovered. Puddles everywhere reflecting gray sky like mirrors showing heaven's indifference. Boot prints cratering mud. Equipment slick with moisture. The obstacle course a sculpture of suffering rendered in wet wood and rusting metal and the sweat of young men trying to prove something they didn't understand yet. Elena positioned herself near the decommissioned observation post. Old concrete tower, paint peeling, purpose outlived, good vantage point, could see 3 training stations, pull-up rigs, rope climb, low-crawl tunnel, occupied, supervised poorly. She dressed the part, tan BDU pants, black undershirt, contractor jacket with company patch she'd never heard of, until the NAVSPEC war logistics officer handed it over. No rank tabs, no unit insignia, no name tape, anonymous, unremarkable. The kind of contractor who might be checking inventory or updating safety protocols or doing any of the 1,000 bureaucratic tasks that make military bases function. Clipboard under one arm, black gloves hanging from carabiner on belt, baseball cap pulled low. Oakley sunglasses despite overcast sky. The costume of invisibility, except she wasn't invisible. Not really. The cadets noticed. Of course they did. A woman in a training yard draws eyes the way blood draws sharks. Primal, instinctive, the biology of threat assessment running on autopilot beneath conscious thought. She watched them watching her, noting faces, reading body language. Professional assessment honed by 12 years of combat operations where reading a room wrong meant body bags. 60 cadets in the yard, 54 male, 6 female. The women clustered at the edges, not by choice, By design, pushed out through 1,000 small cruelties, excluded from informal mentorship, given equipment that didn't fit, partnered with men who half-assed safety protocols, made to feel like visitors in their own service. One woman stood alone, small, Latina features, 20 years old according to the roster Elena memorized. Cadet Amy Torres. Intake photo showed confidence, bright eyes, fierce determination. Now those eyes were hollow, haunted. The look of someone who'd learned that determination doesn't matter when the system doesn't want you to win. Amy caught Elena watching. Brief eye contact, then away. Quick, nervous. The body language of prey that's learned predators come in many forms. Elena made a note. First assessment, pattern confirmed. The women here weren't training. They were surviving. Near the pull-up rigs, a group of 4 male cadets broke from their rotation. Young, early 20s. That dangerous age where confidence outpaces competence and ego writes checks the body hasn't learned to cash yet. They drifted toward Elena like sharks testing a potential meal, circling, assessing, deciding if she was worth the effort. The leader was obvious. Always is. Stocky, blonde, handsome in that corn-fed American way that belonged on recruiting posters. Broad shoulders, cocky grin. The kind of man who'd never been told no by anyone who mattered. His name was Jackson Cole, 22 years old. Father killed Desert Storm 91. Raised by a mother who worshipped a dead hero and couldn't see her mom was trying to become a ghost shadow. His academy application essay quoted Patton and Mattis and ended with a promise to honor his father's sacrifice through service. Noble words, pity about the execution. 3 others flanked him, the wiry one with sharp features, the tall one with more muscle than sense, the quieter one who hung back slightly uncomfortable but too loyal or too scared to break ranks. They approached, boots squelching mud, confident, too confident, the way men move when they have never met real violence and think swagger is the same as strength. Elena kept writing, fake notes about fake inventory. Let them come. Let them think she didn't notice. First rule of surveillance, never reveal awareness until necessary. Jackson stopped 3 feet away. Afternoon, ma'am. Ma'am, polite word delivered like an insult. Mocking, testing. Seeing if she'd correct them, defer to them, acknowledge the hierarchy they assumed. She didn't look up, just kept writing. The wiry one spoke next. Ryan Martinez. You lost admin buildings back that way. Still she wrote, pen scratching paper, ignoring them the way you ignore children throwing tantrums. That's when things shifted. Irritation crept into their postures, shoulders tightening, jaws setting. Because nothing wounds young male ego like being ignored by someone they've decided is beneath them. The tall one, Marcus Webb, shifted his weight. Deliberate, aggressive. His boot came down hard in a puddle 6 inches from Elena's feet. Muddy water sprayed, cold droplets climbing her pant leg, soaking through fabric, reaching skin beneath. First physical contact. First line crossed. Elena stopped writing. Looked down at the mud-staining tan fabric dark from ankle to shin. Watched water soak in and spread. Then lifted her eyes. Not to the cadets. To Sergeant Victor Santos, 40 yards away, supervising the rope climb. Santos saw everything. The approach, the spray, the clear provocation. His eyes met Elena's for 1 second. Recognition flickered. Acknowledgement of the situation. Then he turned away. Deliberately, consciously. Made the choice to ignore what he'd witnessed. Institutional complicity, documented, witnessed, filed away in memory that never forgot faces or failures. Elena returned to her notes, said nothing, gave them nothing, just absorbed the disrespect and cataloged it like evidence in a case building itself 1 violation at a time. That should have been enough. Should have satisfied their need to establish dominance. Should have ended the interaction and let them strut away feeling superior. But Jackson Cole's ego demanded more. Hey, I'm talking to you. Finally, Elena looked up, met his eyes. No expression, no anger, no fear. Just the flat assessment of a predator measuring prey and finding it wanting. Something in that look made Jackson hesitate, just for a heartbeat. Some primal part of his brain recognizing danger the way deer recognize wolves before understanding why they're running. But pride overrode instinct. Always does with men like him. This is a training yard, warrior country. Not sure what you're doing here, but contractors usually stay in their lane. Warrior country. The phrase made Elena want to laugh. These children playing dress-up had no idea what warriors look like. Real warriors didn't announce themselves, didn't strut, didn't need to prove anything because they'd already proven everything that mattered in places these boys couldn't find on maps. She stayed silent. Let him fill the space with words. Let him think silence meant weakness instead of control. Ryan stepped closer. Maybe she's deaf. Marcus laughed. Too loud, forced. The laughter of a man performing for his friends. The quiet one, Dylan Harper, didn't laugh. He watched Elena with something closer to uncertainty, like a student who suspects the test is harder than anticipated but can't figure out why. Elena shifted her weight. Small movement, subtle. The kind of adjustment that meant nothing to civilians and everything to people trained in violence. Weight moving to balls of feet. Center of gravity lowering. Hands loose at sides but ready, ready for what they didn't know yet. But they would. Jackson's frustration peaked. This woman refused to acknowledge him, refused to be intimidated, refused to play the role he'd assigned her. It wounded something deep in his psyche where masculinity braided with insecurity and knots too tight to untangle. You know what? Jackson stepped forward. I think you need to learn where you stand in the hierarchy around here. Elena's eyes tracked him, measured distance, noted stance, cataloged weaknesses, overextended, weight too far forward, lead foot pointing wrong direction, hands loose, no guard, no preparation, just arrogance in human form approaching its reckoning. His hands came up, both of them, palms open. That universal gesture that means push, shove, force applied to establish dominance. Time slowed, the way it always does before violence. The universe taking a breath before exhaling consequence. Elena knew what was coming, had known since the moment they approached, had calculated probabilities and outcomes and decided how this would end before it began. She could have stepped back, could have identified herself, could have diffused the situation with 2 words. Lieutenant Commander. Rank revealed, crisis averted. She chose differently. Because sometimes the system needs to break before it can be fixed. Sometimes the disease needs to manifest before the cure becomes acceptable. Sometimes you have to let men cross the line so everyone watching sees exactly where that line exists. Jackson's hands made contact, palms flat against her shoulders, full force, 200 pounds of young male arrogance behind the push. Elena didn't resist, didn't brace, just let physics take over and Newton's laws do their work. Action, reaction, equal and opposite. She flew backward, not fell, flew, feet leaving ground, body horizontal for a suspended moment where the training yard tilted and sky and earth traded places. Then impact, face first, hard, the way you hit when there's no time to catch yourself. Hands out but not fast enough, gravel meeting skin, sharp edges finding soft tissue, mud splashing up like applause from earth that didn't care about rank or gender or the invisible lines that separate right from wrong. Her left palm took the worst of it, skin tearing, blood welling immediately, right palm skidding across stone, cheek hitting ground hard enough to split the skin beside her eye, mud smearing across her face, filling her mouth with grit and rain and humiliation. For a moment, silence. Then laughter erupted. Not from Jackson alone, but from all 4. From Ryan, who hadn't touched her. From Marcus, who just watched. From Dylan, whose discomfort got buried beneath peer pressure and the desperate need to belong. Look at that, right in the mud. Should have stayed in your office, sweetheart. The words blended together, became white noise, became proof, became evidence of the culture that made 3 women quit and would make more quit if nothing changed. Elena stayed down, not from pain. Pain was familiar, an old friend, a companion that visited after every mission and stayed just long enough to remind her she was still alive, and feeling things meant she hadn't crossed the line into the sociopathy that claimed some operators. She stayed down because she was breathing. 4 count inhale, 4 count hold, 4-count exhale, 4-count hold. The rhythm Master Chief Hawkins taught her in Coronado when panic threatened and lungs seized and the Pacific cold made her want to quit more than she'd ever wanted anything. In through the nose, out through the mouth, heart rate slowing, clarity returning, focus sharpening to diamond point precision. 30 yards away, Amy Torres stood frozen, phone in hand, trembling, recording, capturing everything. The approach, the shove, the assault, Sergeant Santos turning away, the laughter, the moment, all of it. Digital evidence that couldn't be denied or dismissed or explained away with lies about misunderstandings. Elena saw Amy, caught her eye for one fraction of a second, gave the smallest nod, the kind only another woman would recognize, the kind that said, keep filming, keep documenting. This matters. Amy's hand steadied, slightly, enough. Elena pushed herself up, slow, deliberate, each movement controlled, theatrical even, making sure everyone watching saw the mud coating her uniform, the blood on her palms mixing with dirt, the cut on her cheek that would bruise purple by morning, the evidence written on her body in abrasions and contusions and the careful documentation of assault. She stood, full height, 5'7", 140 pounds, small by any measure, unremarkable. The kind of woman these men assumed they could push around because size equaled power in their limited understanding. They were about to learn different. Elena brushed at her sleeves, smeared mud rather than cleaned it. War paint now, battle decoration. The visual representation of a line crossed, and choices made, and consequences cued like rounds in a magazine, waiting for the trigger pull. The four cadets watched, laughter fading, something in her movement making instinct whisper warnings their egos refused to hear. She raised her head, met Jackson's eyes, held his gaze with the kind of intensity that bypasses reason and speaks directly to the animal brain, where survival calculations happen faster than conscious thought. When she spoke, her voice carried across the training yard. Not loud, didn't need to be. Quiet authority commands attention the way screaming never can. You should walk away now. 6 words, each one landing like a hammer blow. No threat in the tone, no anger, just statement of fact delivered with the certainty of someone who knows exactly how the next 5 minutes will unfold if this continues. Jackson's face flushed. Embarrassment, rage. Hard to separate them. They spring from the same well. Did she just threaten us? Ryan forced a laugh. I think she did. That's adorable. Marcus, what are you going to do? Lady filed a complaint. But Dylan wasn't laughing. He stared at Elena's left forearm where her sleeve had ridden up during the fall. Stared at the scar visible there. Puckered. Distinctive. The kind of scar that comes from bullets, not accidents. His eyes widened. Fractional. Recognition flickering. His father had described it. The SEAL who saved his platoon in Kandahar. Female sniper. Took a round through the forearm. Kept firing one-handed. 40 minutes. 12 kills. Call sign Ghost. Dylan's lips moved, forming words no one could hear. Oh, fuck. But Jackson didn't see his friend's face. Didn't catch the warning. Too focused on the woman who dared speak to him like an equal. Too committed to the performance of dominance. Last chance to apologize for being where you don't belong. Elena said nothing, just shifted her weight again. Balanced, centered. Ready, Jackson stepped forward. I said, he never finished the sentence, because that's when the lesson began. Jackson lunged, not a trained attack, just the instinct of a football player turned soldier who thought bulk and aggression were enough. He went low, trying to tackle, wrap her at the waist, use size advantage, drive her into mud again. Simple, straightforward. Exactly what Elena expected. She moved like water, like smoke, like a ghost. Sidestep. Left foot pivoting, right foot following, angle change, 30 degrees. Suddenly his momentum carried him past her, not into her. Her left hand hooked his shoulder, not grabbing, guiding, adding force to movement already committed, redirecting, using his weight and speed against him. Gravity did the rest. Jackson's face met mud at full velocity. The impact made a wet sound, organic, final. His arms splayed trying to catch himself. Failed. His mouth filled with dirt and rainwater. choking, gasping. The world's most basic element, teaching him humility one mouthful at a time. 2 seconds, first lesson delivered. Crowd starting to gather. Cadets hearing commotion. Drifting closer, forming a rough circle. The universal human response to violence. Watch. Bear witness. Store the memory for retelling later. Ryan attacked next. Faster than Jackson. Lighter. More speed, less power. Right hook aimed at her head. Wild. No technique. Just rage and wounded pride swung in an arc that telegraphed itself like semaphore. Elena ducked. Simple. Clean. The punch whistled 4 inches above her head. Missing. Wasting energy. Leaving him exposed. Her elbow rose. Short. Compact. Driven by core rotation, not arm strength. All physics, leverage. The point of her elbow finding the soft tissue just below his sternum. Solar plexus strike, perfectly placed. The kind that paralyzes the diaphragm and makes breathing impossible for seconds that feel like drowning. Ryan dropped, hands clutching his chest, mouth open in a silent scream that had no air behind it, curling into fetal position, body overriding brain and choosing survival over ego. 4 seconds total, 2 down. Marcus came from behind, thought he was clever, thought surprise mattered, didn't understand that a combat veteran with 47 kills knows surprise is illusion. That peripheral vision and situational awareness in the sixth sense that develops downrange means she felt him coming before his boots left their print in mud. Bear hug. That was his play. Wrap arms around her, use his 230 frame to squeeze, lift, control. Elena waited until his arms touched, until he committed fully, until escape became impossible in his mind. Then she dropped, knees bending, center of gravity plummeting, spine straight, on all technique. His arms locked around empty space where she'd been, momentum carrying him forward and down. His weight becoming weapon she directed, not carried. Elena exploded upward. Hip throw, judo principle applied with SEAL precision. Her hips became fulcrum. His body became lever. Physics did the rest. Marcus went airborne. 230 pounds flying 4 feet up and 6 feet back. Spinning, tumbling, landing flat on his back in the mud with an impact that drove air from lungs and sense from mind. He lay there, staring at sky, groaning, dazed. The way men look when reality breaks expectations so thoroughly that brain needs time to recalibrate. 7 seconds, 3 down. Dylan faced her last. The reluctant one, the conflicted one. The one who'd recognized her scar and understood too late what his friends had started. Please, his voice barely whisper. I don't want to. Jackson's voice from the mud, coughing, choking. Get her, Harper. Peer pressure, the great destroyer of judgment. The force that makes good men do evil things because belonging matters more than morality. Dylan charged, half-hearted, telegraphed, already regretting it. Elena caught his wrist mid-swing, joint lock, police hold, the kind that controls without breaking. She twisted, rotated his entire arm, drove him to his knees with pressure that spoke of restraint, not incapacity, could snap the elbow, could dislocate the shoulder. Didn't. Discipline, precision, the hallmark of professionals. She leaned close, whispered so only Dylan heard. I know your father. Kandahar, 2012. He's alive because I bled for him. And you just attacked me. Dylan's face collapsed. Horror, shame, recognition, all of it crashing together. Elena released him. Stepped back. 3 paces. Created distance. All 4 cadets in the mud, breathing hard, bleeding some, humiliated completely. Elena stood center, mud streaking her face and uniform, blood on her palms, breathing controlled, not exhausted, not angry, just present, aware, professional. The crowd of watching cadets had swelled, 20, 30, more coming. Drawn by the spectacle of 4 men put down by 1 woman without breaking a sweat. Silence fell, heavy, pregnant with implication. Colonel William Richardson emerged from headquarters building, gray-haired, distinguished. Desert Storm veteran with eyes that had seen combat and recognized its aftermath. What the hell is going on here? All four cadets scrambling up, pointing at Elena, voices overlapping. She attacked us. We were just talking. She went crazy. Dylan alone stayed silent. Couldn't lie. Not about this. Richardson's eyes swept the scene. Four muddy cadets. One composed woman. 30 witnesses. Sergeant Santos, 40 yards away, suddenly very interested in his clipboard. Who are you? Elena reached into her jacket pocket. Slow, deliberate. No sudden movements. She pulled out laminated identification and folded orders. Extended them. Richardson took them. Read. His expression shifted. Surprise. Recognition. Something like respect, he read aloud. Assigned logistics consultant. Naval Special Warfare Command. Paused. Kept reading. Eyes widening incrementally. Lieutenant Commander, Elena Castellanos. Her name falling into silence like a stone down a well. Dropping. Dropping. Impact coming. Ghost, Richardson's voice quieter now. The ghost from Fallujah. Elena nodded once. No words necessary. Richardson turned to the crowd, drew breath. When he spoke, every cadet heard. This woman is Lieutenant Commander Elena Castellanos, Navy SEAL, retired, 2 Bronze Stars, 1 Silver Star, 12 years of combat operations in classified theaters I cannot name, 47 confirmed kills, multiple Valor citations. And you four, he turned to Jackson's group, face hardening, command voice activating. Just committed assault on a Navy SEAL combat veteran. Dead silence, the kind that precedes earthquakes and executions and the end of worlds. Elena's voice cut through. Colonel Richardson, I need to speak with you privately, and I need that cadet's phone. She pointed at Amy Torres. What? The young woman behind that vehicle has been recording this entire incident. She also has, I believe, months of documentation regarding the harassment patterns that brought me here. Every eye turned to Amy, small, trembling, but holding her phone up, visible, defiant. 3 months, Amy's voice shaking but clear. I have 3 months of video, everything they did to me, everything Sergeant Santos ignored, everything they just did to her. All of it. Sergeant Santos, 40 yards away, realized his career just ended, turned to run. Richardson's voice cracked like a whip. Sergeant Santos, halt! Santos froze, the instinct of 20 years of service overriding the desire to flee. You're confined to quarters pending investigation. Move. Military police emerged from shadows, flanked Santos, escorted him away. Elena faced Richardson, speaking clearly so everyone heard. Sir, I'm here on orders from NAVSPEC Ward to conduct covert investigation into institutional failures and training protocols. This academy has had 3 female cadets quit in 6 months, citing harassment and hostile environment. My mission was to document the culture creating those outcomes. I have my documentation. She gestured at her mud-streaked uniform. Blood-smeared palms, 4 cadets in various states of humiliation. Richardson processed. Connected dots. Understood implications. Commander, do you want to press charges? Every cadet leaned in, waiting. Breath held. Elena's answer fell like judgment. No. Confusion rippled through the crowd. Charges won't fix what's broken here, but testimony at an honor board will. These 4 cadets will face accountability. But more importantly, this entire academy will face the question of what kind of warriors we're training, and whether we're building warfighters or bullies. She turned, faced the crowd, spoke to all of them. They threw me in the mud thinking it would end with me embarrassed and them vindicated. They were wrong because I'm not here to prove I belong. I'm here to prove you failed. Failed these women, failed your mission, failed the concept of honor you claim to serve. The words hung in air like smoke from burning bridges. And now we fix it. Elena walked away, not towards safety, toward the headquarters building where evidence would be logged and reports would be filed and the machinery of accountability would grind into motion. Behind her, 4 cadets remained kneeling in mud that tasted like consequences. Behind them, 30 witnesses understood they'd just watched history. The moment something broke, The instant a system's failure became undeniable. And 40 yards away, Sergeant Santos disappeared into a building under armed escort, his career ending in handcuffs and dishonor. The lesson was delivered. Now came the aftermath. The conference room smelled like old coffee and newer fear. Four walls, one table, three chairs occupied, fluorescent lights humming that eternal frequency that makes time feel suspended and consequences inevitable. Outside, the North Carolina afternoon faded toward evening. Inside, the truth was about to surface like a submarine breaking through dark water into unforgiving daylight. Amy Torres sat with her phone face up on the table between them. The screen showed a frozen frame. Jackson Cole's hands mid-push. Elena Castellanos about to fly backward. The moment before impact captured in digital amber. Colonel Richardson stood with his back to the window. Lieutenant James Cross, the CQC instructor, leaned against the wall with arms crossed and jaw tight. Both men wore the expression of soldiers who just discovered the high ground they thought they held was actually a kill box. Elena sat across from Amy, mud still streaking her uniform. Blood dried on her palms. The cut beside her eye had stopped bleeding, but the bruise was already blooming, purple and yellow, the colors of violence rendered in skin. Amy's hands shook, not much, just enough that the phone trembled slightly on the table like a seismograph detecting earthquakes only it could feel. "Show them," Elena's voice. Quiet, steady, not a command, an invitation. Amy's finger swiped. The video began. Week 1 feed, the first incident Amy had documented. Jackson's group during PT push-ups. Amy in front row. The comments started innocuous, morphed, became sexual, became harassment, became the kind of thing that makes skin crawl and silence feel like survival strategy. Ryan's voice on the audio. "Nice form, real nice. You doing in those for us," laughter. Marcus joining in. "Maybe she'll give us private lessons later." Amy's face in the video never changed, just kept doing push-ups, kept breathing, kept pretending she didn't hear words designed to make her quit. Sergeant Santos in the background, visible, hearing everything, writing on his clipboard, doing nothing. Richardson's jaw worked, grinding teeth, old habit from combat, the body's way of processing rage when screaming isn't an option. The video continued. Week 3, hand-to-hand training. Ryan paired with Amy. The drill required close contact, grappling, holds. The kind of training where accidents happen and intent is hard to prove. Except Amy had filmed the brief before. The instructor saying, "Keep it professional. Respect boundaries." The words clear and explicit. Then the drill. Ryan's hands going places they didn't need to go, lingering, squeezing, his grin visible to the camera. Deliberate, knowing. Amy's voice into the video. "That's not part of the hold." Ryan's response. "Just making sure I do it right. Gotta be thorough." Marcus laughing in the background. No instructor intervention. Week 5, equipment shed. Amy trying to access training gear. Marcus blocking the entrance. Not overtly, just standing there, taking up space, making her ask permission, making her acknowledge she needed his cooperation to do her job. The power play evident even in silence. Week 7, the verbal escalation. Jackson finding Amy during a break, his voice carrying that false concern that masks cruelty. "Torres, real talk. You struggling because this isn't the place for people who can't hack it. No shame in admitting it's too much. Military isn't for everyone." Amy's response quiet, professional. "I'm fine, Cadet Cole." "Sure, because we've seen women try this before. Usually doesn't work out. Just saying might want to consider whether you're really cut out for warrior culture." The subtext obvious, the message clear. You don't belong. Leave before we make you. Week 9, the complaint. Me filing formal report with Sergeant Santos. The video showed the interaction. Amy's voice shaking but determined, explaining the pattern. The harassment, the exclusion, the hostile environment. Santos's response captured in high-definition audio. "Cadet Torres, you need thicker skin. This is a military academy. We don't coddle people. If you can't handle some rough language and competitive atmosphere, maybe you need to reconsider your career path. Warrior culture means tough love. It means men push each other hard. You want equality. This is what it looks like. Amy trying to press. Sir, with respect, this isn't about toughness. This is about targeted harassment based on gender. Santos cutting her off. Are you questioning my assessment, cadet? The threat implicit. The power dynamic crushing dissent. Week 11. The formal complaint escalation. Amy meeting with Master Sergeant Thompson, the investigating officer, the man whose job was to ensure justice. Thompson's response recorded from outside his office where Amy had left her phone in her jacket. Audio only but crystal clear. I've spoken with these cadets you named. They deny everything. Say you're misinterpreting normal military banter. Now I can open a full investigation, but I'm telling you it's your word against 4 of theirs. No physical evidence, no other witnesses. It'll be messy. Could affect your standing here. People might think you're not a team player. The manipulation obvious. The threat veiled but present. My recommendation, let it go. Prove yourself through performance. Show them you belong by being better, not by filing complaints. Amy's voice, small, defeated. Yes, Master Sergeant. Richardson's hands slammed the table. Not hard enough to damage. Hard enough to convey fury barely contained. That son of a bitch, Cross pushed off the wall. Paced. 3 steps. 4. His own complicity weighing visible on shoulders that had carried rucksacks through combat, but couldn't carry the guilt of silence. Sir, 6 months ago I filed concerns. Cross's voice rough, gravel and regret. Written documentation, submitted through chain of command to Thompson. He told me he'd address it. I believed him. I should have followed up. Should have gone over his head when nothing changed. Richardson turned, studied Cross, saw genuine remorse, filed it away for later consideration. The final video played, today. Elena's assault, the whole sequence, Jackson's approach, the verbal harassment, the shove, Elena hitting mud, the laughter, Santos seeing everything, turning away, choosing complicity over duty. Then the fight, 4 men attacking, 1 woman defending, the precision of her movements, the control, the restraint. Each takedown filmed from 30 yards away but clear enough to see exactly what happened. No ambiguity, no room for alternative interpretations, just truth rendered in pixels and audio and the undeniable reality of documentation. The video ended. Silence filled the room like water filling a hull breach. Amy spoke first, voice stronger now. Testimony delivered. Evidence presented. The hardest part done. I almost quit. 3 times, had resignation papers drafted. Was going to submit them this week. She looked at Elena. Then I saw you, saw how they treated you, and I realized if they'll do this to a Navy SEAL, what chance did I ever have? Richardson moved to the table, sat heavily, the weight of command visible in the slump of his shoulders. Amy, I owe you an apology. As commanding officer, the failures of this institution fall on my desk. I inherited a culture problem when I took command 18 months ago. I've been trying to change it quietly, work within the system, convince the old guard through patience and diplomacy. He looked at the frozen image on Amy's phone, Jackson's hands, Elena falling. But you can't fix a broken culture quietly. You can't negotiate with rot. You cut it out, fast, completely, before it spreads further. Richardson's fist clenched. Amy, there's something else you need to know. Something I'm ashamed of. He pulled a folder from his desk, opened it, inside copies of Amy's complaints, stapled to them his own forwarding memo. 6 months ago, when your first complaint reached my desk, I did what I thought was right. I forwarded it to regional command, flagged it as urgent, requested external investigation. He slid the folder across. The response memo visible. Stamped return to sender. They told me to handle it internally, said external investigations create bad optics, hurt recruitment, make the academy look weak. They ordered me to resolve it quietly through chain of command. Elena's eyes narrowed. And you obeyed. I obeyed, Richardson's voice hollow. I told myself I was working within the system, that I could fix it from inside, that patience and diplomacy would work. I was wrong. And Amy paid the price for my cowardice. Cross spoke quietly. Sir, you're saying regional command knew and ordered a cover-up. I'm saying the rot goes higher than this academy, and I just became part of it by staying silent. Elena leaned forward. Colonel, with respect, the rot didn't spread. It was planted, cultivated. This isn't a few bad actors. It's institutional design. And the question we need to answer is simple. Do we want warriors or do we want bullies in uniform? Cross spoke. What happens now? Richardson stood, straightened, command posture returning, decision made. Now we follow protocol, but we also change everything. He began listing actions, each one delivered with the certainty of orders being given downrange where hesitation costs lives. Sergeant Santos relieved of duty immediately. Court-martial convened. Charges including dereliction of duty, failure to report and conduct unbecoming. Career over. Pension at risk. Master Sergeant Thompson suspended pending investigation. Full review of every complaint he'd handled in the past 3 years. Pattern analysis. If systematic dismissal of harassment claims was found, he'd face charges matching Santos. The 4 cadets confined to quarters. Honor board scheduled for 72 hours. Charges formal. Assault on a federal officer. Multiple code of conduct violations. Pattern of harassment. Possible expulsion on the table. Academy-wide stand-down scheduled for tomorrow morning. 0800. Mandatory attendance. Full transparency briefing. This wasn't getting buried. This wasn't getting managed quietly. This was becoming an example. Lieutenant Cross, Richardson's voice sharp. Official. You filed concerns 6 months ago. That puts you ahead of most. Question is what you do now. Cross met his commander's eyes. Whatever it takes to fix this, sir. Good. You're temporary replacement for Santos. Effective immediately. And you're going to help Commander Castellanos with something else. Richardson turned to Elena. Commander, you came here to document failures. You've done that, but documentation alone won't change culture. We need more. Elena waited, listening. I want you to stay, not as investigator, as instructor. Help us rebuild this. Teach these cadets what real warriors look like. Before Elena could respond, Richardson continued, and I want your recommendation for the 4. They assaulted you. They're facing courts-martial. But you're the injured party. Your testimony matters. What do you want? The question hung between them, heavy with implication. Elena thought about Master Chief Hawkins, about Coronado, about the day she almost quit and he didn't let her, about the investment he made in someone who didn't deserve it yet, but might someday. I'll give you my recommendation after I talk to them. Richardson nodded, understanding. You have 48 hours before the honor board. Whatever you need, you have my full support. The meeting ended. Amy and Cross left. Richardson moved toward the door but paused. Commander, they threw you in the mud thinking it would end with you defeated. Instead, they just detonated the bomb that's going to reshape this entire academy. I don't know if that's justice or poetry, but I know it's necessary. He left. Elena sat alone in the conference room. Mud drying on her uniform, blood crusting on her palms, the evidence of assault worn like metals she'd never wanted but would use for something important. Outside, the sun was setting. Tomorrow, 4 young men would learn what consequences feel like. But first, they needed to understand why those consequences mattered. The door opened, closed. Soft footsteps. Dylan Harper stood in the doorway, out of uniform, civilian clothes, eyes red, face showing the kind of exhaustion that comes from crying and thinking and realizing you're not who you thought you were. Ma'am, they said you wanted to see us individually. Elena gestured to the chair Amy had vacated. Sit. He sat, hands clasped, knuckles white, the posture of a man bracing for impact. Elena studied him, 22 years old, athletic build, good posture despite the circumstances. The one who'd hesitated during the attack. The one who'd recognized her scar and understood too late. Tell me about your father. Dylan's head snapped up, surprise evident. Gunnery Sergeant Thomas Harper, 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines, Kandahar, 2012. He was part of the platoon that got surrounded, cut off, taking casualties, running out of ammunition, waiting to die. Dylan's voice cracked. Then the SEALs came. Your team. You. He told me about the sniper. Call sign Ghost. Never saw her face. Just heard the rifle, M40A6. Perfect shots, every single one. Kept the Taliban pinned for 40 minutes while they extracted. Elena pulled up her sleeve, showed the scar, puckered skin, entry and exit, the bullet's path visible in scar tissue. Took the round at minute 37, kept firing one-handed while the medic worked. 12 kills that day, every one to save Marines like your father. Dylan broke, not crying, something beyond crying. The kind of emotional collapse that happens when reality breaks self-image so completely that reconstruction seems impossible. And I attacked you. I helped them hurt you. The woman who saved my father's life. Why? One word, carrying weight. Dylan struggled, looking for answers in places that had no answers. Finally found words that tasted like truth even if they burned coming out. Because Jackson seemed strong, confident, like the warriors my dad described. And I wanted to be like that. After Dad came home from Kandahar, he wasn't the same. PTSD, nightmares. He'd wake up screaming. Mom would find him checking locks at 3 a.m. He couldn't hold jobs, couldn't function. Dylan's hands shook. He told me once that the SEALs who saved him were real warriors. That he wasn't, that he broke, that he was weak for breaking. And I grew up watching him struggle and thinking strength meant never breaking, meant being hard, unbreakable. So when Jackson acted tough, when he dominated people, when he seemed unshakable, I thought that's what strength looked like. I thought following him would make me strong, like you made my father strong. Elena let silence sit, let him hear his own words reflected back. Your father wasn't weak, Dylan. PTSD isn't failure. It's proof he was human in inhuman circumstances. The fact he survived, that he came home, that he lived with memories that would break most people, that's strength. She leaned forward. And he didn't survive because I was strong. He survived because 23 Marines refused to leave him, because they carried wounded teammates, because they chose brotherhood over self-preservation. Your father lived because of the exact opposite of what Jackson represents. Dylan absorbed that. Processing, rebuilding. What's going to happen to us? That depends on you. The honor board will convene. You'll face charges. Expulsion is possible. Courts-martial is possible. Your military career could end before it starts. Dylan nodded, accepting. But, Elena's voice shifted. I'm going to recommend an alternative. Not because you deserve mercy, because the military deserves better than throwing away people who might become something worthwhile. Hope flickered. Dangerous. Tentative. I'm going to recommend a reformation program. 90 days. Harder than anything you've faced. You'll train under me. You'll learn what real warriors look like. You'll mentor the next female cadet class. You'll rebuild what you helped break. And if you fail, if you quit, if you reoffend even once you're gone, dishonorable discharge. No second chances after the second chance. Dylan met her eyes. Why would you do that? After what I did, Elena thought about Dutch, about Coronado, about the investment made in her when she didn't deserve it, because someone gave me a chance when I didn't deserve it, and he made me promise to pass it forward. Dylan stood, came to attention, saluted, proper, respectful. I won't let you down, ma'am. Don't make me promises. Make me results. He left. The door closed. 20 minutes later, it opened again. Jackson Cole entered. Different from Dylan. Where Dylan showed remorse, Jackson radiated defiance, poorly masking fear. The swagger was gone, but the ego remained. Wounded, angry, looking for someone to blame besides mirrors. Sit. He sat, chin up, shoulders back, still performing strength even now. Your father was Staff Sergeant Robert Cole, killed Al-Kafji. Desert Storm, 91. You were 3. Jackson's mask cracked. Slightly. How do you know that? I read your file, your academy application essay. You wrote that you wanted to honor your father's sacrifice by becoming the warrior he was. Elena paused. Tell me, Jackson, would your father be proud of what you did today? The crack widened, became fracture. Jackson's face collapsed like a building losing structural support. Tears came, not gentle, harsh. The crying of a man who'd never learned to process emotion without seeing it as weakness. No, tell me about him. I don't remember him. The words came broken, jagged. Just photos, stories. Everyone says he was a hero, saved his squad, died covering their retreat. He was everything, and I'm nothing. Elena waited. Let him sit in that truth. So you performed toughness to convince yourself you're worthy of his legacy. Yes. Whisper, admission, the sound of ego dying. You're right, you're nothing like him. The words hit like bullets. Jackson flinched. Your father fought enemies. You bullied a 20-year-old girl. He sacrificed himself for others. You sacrificed others for your ego. He earned his reputation through actions. You tried to claim one through cruelty. Silence. Heavy. Crushing. But here's what you need to understand about legacies, Jackson. You don't inherit them. You earn them. Your father's heroism doesn't make you a hero. It makes you the son of a hero. What you become is your choice. And so far, you've chosen poorly. Jackson looked up, eyes red, face destroyed. Can I fix it? That's the question you should have asked before you pushed me in the mud. But yes, maybe. If you're willing to do something harder than attacking women. If you're willing to face what you've become and choose to become something else. She explained the Reformation program. 90 days, daily PT ethics training, community service, mentorship, the whole structure designed to break down ego and rebuild character. Jackson listened, really listened, the first time maybe in years. Why would you help me? I'm not helping you. I'm helping the next woman who trains here, the next Amy Torres who files a complaint, the next cadet who doesn't fit the mold. If you change, truly change, you become proof that change is possible. You become the example that reforms culture. She stood. But Jackson, understand this clearly. I'm giving you a chance, not forgiveness. Forgiveness you'll have to earn from Amy, from yourself, from the memory of a father who died doing the right thing while you were doing the wrong one. He stood, tried to salute, his hand shaking too much. Don't salute me yet. You haven't earned that right. When you graduate the program, when you've proven you've changed, then we'll talk about salutes. Jackson left, smaller somehow, the swagger gone completely, replaced by the uncertain shuffle of a man whose foundation just crumbled and was trying to walk on rubble. Ryan came next, then Marcus. Each interview similar, each confrontation necessary, each young man facing the moment when excuses run out and reality demands acknowledgement. Ryan tried to claim he was just following orders. Elena reminded him that Nuremberg established that defense doesn't work, that moral responsibility is individual, that choosing comfort over courage is still a choice. Marcus tried to claim he didn't think. Elena explained that soldiers who don't think commit atrocities, that following blindly isn't loyalty, that real warriors question orders that violate values. By the time the last interview ended, night had fallen, the academy quiet, most cadets in their quarters, the day's events rippling through the ranks like shockwaves through water. Elena walked the grounds, mud still on her uniform, badge of honor now, evidence worn deliberately. She found Amy outside the female barracks, sitting on steps, staring at stars, phone in hand like a talisman. Elena sat beside her, said nothing, just shared the silence. Finally, Amy spoke. People are already talking, saying I'm a snitch, saying I got 4 guys in trouble, that I should have handled it differently. Do you regret it? Long pause. Stars wheeling overhead, the universe indifferent to human drama but present nonetheless. No, because it was right, Elena smiled. Small, genuine. That's the answer of a warrior. I don't feel like a warrior. I feel scared. Even with the video, even with you here. I'm scared they'll find a way to make this my fault. Elena understood, knew that fear, had lived it. Amy, let me tell you something they don't teach in basic training. Being a warrior isn't about fearlessness. It's about doing what's right despite fear. You documented months of harassment knowing it might end your career. You kept that phone steady when your hands wanted to shake. You testified when silence would have been easier. That's courage. Amy wiped eyes. What happens now? Now we change the system, not just for you, for every woman who comes after, for every man who wants to be better but doesn't know how, for the concept of honor that got buried under ego and tradition and the lie that cruelty equals strength. Silence returned. Comfortable now. Ma'am, can I ask you something? Yes. When you were in Buds, when they harassed you, how did you deal with it? Elena thought about Coronado, about cold water and colder words, about 42 men waiting for her to fail, and one master chief who wouldn't let her. Someone very important taught me that proving them wrong is good, but proving them worthy of serving beside you is better. I spent my career doing the first. Now I want to spend my time doing the second. Amy absorbed that. Will you teach me? Already am. The stars continued their rotation. The academy slept. Tomorrow would bring reckonings and reforms in the hard work of changing culture one decision at a time. But tonight, two women sat on steps under Carolina sky. One who'd survived the system's worst and one who was learning to fight it. Both warriors, both tired, both ready for what came next. Elena stood, offered her hand. Amy took it. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be long. Amy nodded, headed inside. Elena walked toward temporary quarters. Each step deliberate, each movement controlled. The discipline that survived combat, surviving peacetime's different battles. Her phone buzzed. Message from Richardson. Honor board set for 0900, day after tomorrow. What's your recommendation? Elena typed back. Reformation over expulsion, but with conditions. Details tomorrow. His response immediate. They threw you in mud and you're recommending mercy. Her reply, not mercy, investment. Someone invested in me once. Time to pay that forward. Three dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, Dutch would be proud. Elena looked at her phone, at the message, at the implication that her mentor's legacy continued through choices made in his absence. She typed, he made me promise. I keep promises. The conversation ended. Elena reached her quarters, stripped off the mud-caked uniform, the physical evidence of assault. She'd bag it, document it, add it to the case file that would reshape academy policy. But first she stood in the shower. Let hot water wash mud and blood and the day's weight down drains that didn't care about justice or reform or the price of change. Tomorrow, 4 young men would learn whether redemption was possible, whether second chances came with strings attached, whether becoming better was harder than staying the same. Tomorrow, Amy Torres would testify before the entire academy, would stand up and name names and detail violations and refuse to be silenced again. Tomorrow, the system would face its failures publicly, completely. No more quiet management. No more protecting reputation over people. Tomorrow, everything would change. But tonight, Elena Castellano stood underwater and thought about mud, about how seals weren't made in clean spaces, about how the hardest thing she'd ever done wasn't combat. It was walking into her commander's office and reporting harassment, was staying when quitting seemed easier, was proving that belonging wasn't given, but earned and defended and extended to others. The water ran clear finally. She dried off, put on clean clothes, sat on the bunk in temporary quarters that felt more like home than anywhere had in 3 years. Her phone showed a photo. Master Chief Hawkins, gray-haired, weathered, smiling that rare smile he saved for moments that mattered. Beside him, a younger Elena, fresh from her first deployment, still learning, still becoming. The photo was taken 13 years ago, a lifetime in military terms, an instant in memory. She typed a message to no one, to herself, to Dutch's ghost. I kept the promise. They threw me in mud. I'm teaching them why that was a mistake. Send button pressed. Message disappearing into void that didn't answer but heard nonetheless. Elena set an alarm. 0500, early but necessary. Tomorrow started before dawn because transformation always does. She closed her eyes. Sleep came fast, combat veteran sleep, the kind that shuts down completely because tomorrow's violence might demand everything, and rest is ammunition hoarded against future battles. Outside the academy dreamed its troubled dreams. 4 young men lay awake wondering if careers could survive choices. One young woman slept better than she had in months because finally someone believed her. And in an office across campus, Colonel Richardson drafted the speech he'd give tomorrow. The one that would acknowledge failure, name names, promise change. The speech that would hurt short-term reputation to build long-term integrity. The hardest kind of leadership. The necessary kind. The moon set. Stars faded. Dawn approached with the inevitability of consequences and the possibility of redemption. The mud had been thrown, the lesson delivered. Now came the part where theory became practice, where words became policy, where 4 young men either rose to become better or fell to become cautionary tales. Either way, the academy would never be the same. The system had cracked. Light was getting in, and Elena Castellanos, covered in mud and blooded but unbowed, had become the hammer that broke it open. Tomorrow would reveal whether breaking was the first step toward healing, or just breaking. But that was tomorrow's question. Tonight the answer slept, gathering strength, preparing for the reckoning that comes after every revelation. The mud was washed away, the blood cleaned, the cuts would heal, but the memory would remain, would become legend, would become the story told to every new cadet about the day they threw a woman in the mud and discovered she was a Navy SEAL who'd been training in mud since before they were born. Who knew mud didn't break warriors? It forged them. The story would change with each telling. Details would shift, but the core would remain. They thought mud would humiliate her. Instead, it elevated them towards something better. Or destroyed them trying. Tomorrow would determine which. The auditorium held 300 cadets and felt like a courtroom where history was about to render its verdict. Rows of wooden seats ascending toward the back. A stage at front where 5 officers sat behind a long table draped in academy colors. American flag to the left, North Carolina state flag to the right. Between them, the seal of Ironwood Military Academy, an eagle clutching arrows and olive branch. The symbols of war and peace waiting to determine which these 4 cadets deserved. Elena sat in the front row. Civilian clothes today, no uniform, no rank visible. Just a woman who'd been assaulted watching to see if justice survived contact with institutional inertia. Beside her, Amy Torres in dress uniform. Pressed. Perfect. Every crease sharp enough to cut. The armor of professionalism worn by someone who'd learned that appearance matters when credibility is under assault. Behind them, 300 cadets filled seats with the nervous energy of witnesses to executions they feared might someday be their own. Colonel Richardson presided from the center chair. To his left, 2 Navy officers from Nav Spec War. To his right, a Marine officer and a female Army officer. The panel deliberately diverse, deliberately chosen. No room for claims of bias or old boys protecting their own. The 4 cadets stood at attention in the well before the stage. Jackson Cole, Dylan Harper, Ryan Martinez, Marcus Webb. Dress uniforms identical. Postures rigid. Faces showing the kind of fear that comes when consequence stops being theoretical and becomes the air you breathe. Richardson's voice filled the auditorium. Command voice. The kind that carried over artillery fire and didn't need microphones to reach the back row. This honor board convenes to address charges against cadets Cole, Harper, Martinez, and Webb. The charges are severe. Assault on a federal officer conducting official duties. Conduct unbecoming. Pattern of gender-based harassment. Violations of Academy Honor Code. These charges carry potential for expulsion and courts-martial. He paused. Let weight settle. Let fear take root. But before we proceed to testimony, I want every cadet in this auditorium to understand something clearly. You are not here just to watch 4 of your peers face judgment. You are here to face judgment yourselves. Because the culture that created this situation didn't begin with these 4. It was inherited, perpetuated, allowed to metastasize by collective silence. Richardson gestured to a screen descending behind the panel. You're going to watch something now, 3 months of documented evidence. And as you watch, I want you to ask yourselves one question. Not whether you would have done what these 4 did, but whether you would have stopped them, whether you would have reported it, whether you had the courage to intervene when intervention mattered. The lights dimmed, the screen illuminated. Amy's phone footage began to play. 23 minutes of documentation. Compressed, edited for time but not impact. Every incident preserved. Every comment captured. Every moment of harassment rendered undeniable by technology's indifferent eye. The auditorium watched in silence. The kind of silence that precedes revelation. That comes before mirrors force people to see themselves truly and completely. Week 1 played out. The sexual comments during PT. Ryan's voice crude. Marcus laughing. Jackson smirking. The casual cruelty of men who'd never been taught that power without accountability breeds monsters. Week 3. The hand-to-hand training. Ryan's deliberate groping disguised as drill errors. Amy's protest dismissed. Instructor's failure to intervene visible and damning. Week 5. Marcus blocking equipment access. The subtle power play. The message clear. You need our permission. You exist at our sufferance. Remember your place. Week 7. Jackson's false concern. The manipulation wrapped in mentorship language. Suggesting Amy wasn't cut out for military service. Planting seeds of doubt while pretending to care about her welfare. Week 9. The complaint. Amy's shaking voice reporting to Sergeant Santos. His dismissal. His lecture about warrior culture and thick skin and the lie that accepting abuse equals toughness. Week 11. Master Sergeant Thompson telling Amy to let it go. To prove herself through performance, not complaints. The institutional betrayal captured in audio that made several cadets shift uncomfortably in seats. Finally, the assault. Jackson's approach. The verbal harassment. Elena standing silent. The shove. The impact. The laughter. Santos turning away. The fight. 4 men attacking. 1 woman defending with precision that made violence look like choreography. The video ended. Lights rose slowly. 300 cadets sat motionless. Some faces showed shame, others anger. A few remained defiant, but those were shrinking minority. The evidence too clear. The pattern too obvious. Richardson stood. What you just witnessed is what systemic failure looks like. 3 months of escalating harassment, multiple complaints, multiple failures of leadership, culminating in assault on a decorated combat veteran who came here to document exactly what you all just saw. He turned to the 4 cadets. You 4 are not the disease. You're the symptom. But symptoms still require treatment. The prosecutor rose. Navy officer, female, commander rank. She laid out charges with clinical precision. Each count detailed, each violation cataloged. The legal framework that could end 4 military careers before they properly began. The evidence presented needed no elaboration. The video spoke. Amy's documentation. Medical reports showing Elena's injuries. Witness statements from cadets who'd seen parts of the pattern but stayed silent. The case was airtight. Conviction inevitable. The only question was sentencing. Defense counsel rose, tried to argue context, tried to claim cultural misunderstanding, tried to suggest that military training environments naturally fostered aggressive behavior and boundaries weren't always clear. The female Army officer on the panel cut him off. Counsel, I've served 22 years, 3 combat deployments. I've trained alongside men in environments far more stressful than this academy. And never once did unclear boundaries result in sexual harassment or assault on federal officers. Don't insult this board by suggesting context excuses conduct. Defense counsel sat down, having argued what duty required but knowing the argument was dead on arrival. Richardson addressed the 4 cadets directly. Before this panel deliberates, you each have opportunity to speak, to explain, to apologize, to say whatever you believe matters. Who wants to go first? Silence, the kind where responsibility becomes burden no one wants to carry. Dylan stepped forward, smallest movement, quietest courage. I have no excuse for what I did. Commander Castellanos saved my father's life in Kandahar. She took a bullet covering his platoon's extraction, and I repaid that by attacking her. I'm ashamed. I'm sorry. And I know sorry isn't enough. But I'm asking for the chance to become someone my father could be proud of. Someone worthy of the sacrifice people like Commander Castellanos made for people like him. He stepped back. Jackson moved next. Slower. Heavier. Like walking through mud. My father died a hero in Desert Storm. I spent my whole life trying to live up to a memory I never knew. I thought being tough made me like him. I was wrong. Bullying doesn't make you a warrior. It makes you a coward. I dishonored my father's memory. I dishonored this academy. I dishonored Commander Castellanos, who represents everything I claim to admire. I don't deserve forgiveness, but I'm asking for the chance to earn redemption. Ryan followed, voice shaking. I was scared of being the target, so I made someone else the target. I hurt Cadet Torres. I participated in hurting Commander Castellanos. I chose wrong because I was weak. I want to be stronger, better. If given the chance, I'll prove I can be. Marcus went last, simple, direct, the way honest men speak when complexity fails them. I didn't think. I just followed orders. That's not good enough. A soldier needs to think, needs to know when to say no. I didn't. I should have. If allowed, I'll learn to be the kind of soldier who questions orders that violate values. The four stood together again, waiting, the silence stretching like wire pulled taut before breaking. Amy stood, unbidden, unplanned, her voice carrying to the back row. 3 months ago, I wanted them expelled. I wanted them gone. I wanted the system to punish them the way the system failed to protect me. She paused, steadied herself. But Commander Castellanos taught me something. Taught me that destruction is easy, that building something better is hard. These four have started to understand what they did wrong. Expulsion would teach them that consequences end careers, but reformation might teach them that consequences create opportunities to become better. Amy looked at the panel, at Richardson. I'm not asking for mercy. I'm asking for justice. Real justice. The kind that changes people, not just punishes them. If they're willing to do the work, if they're willing to face what they've become and choose to become something else, then I believe they deserve that chance. She sat, the auditorium processed her words, the victim advocating for her attacker's redemption. The moral complexity of justice that heals rather than just harms. Elena stood next. Richardson nodded permission. Panel, I'm Lieutenant Commander Elena Castellanos. These four cadets assaulted me, threw me in mud, attacked me when I defended myself. They violated federal law. They violated basic human decency. By all rights, they should face maximum punishment. She turned, looked at the four directly. But I'm recommending an alternative, not because they deserve mercy, because the military deserves better than throwing away people who might become something worthwhile. I recommend 90-day intensive reformation program, daily PT ethics training, community service, mentorship of incoming female cadets, zero tolerance policy. One violation equals immediate expulsion with dishonorable discharge. The panel exchanged glances, whispered consultation. Finally, Richardson spoke. The panel will deliberate, dismissed. Everyone stood, filed out. The four cadets remained standing in the well, alone with their thoughts and the weight of futures undecided. 47 minutes later, the panel returned. The auditorium refilled. 300 witnesses resuming seats like jury members awaiting verdict. Richardson remained standing. This panel finds cadets Cole Harper Martinez and Webb guilty on all charges. The words fell like hammers. Four faces went pale. Four futures teetering on edge of cliff. However, in light of testimony from the injured party and from Cadet Torres, and in recognition that institutional change requires reformation, not just punishment, this panel offers the following sentence. Richardson read from prepared statement. Cadets Cole Harper Martinez and Webb are hereby sentenced to 90-day intensive reformation program as outlined by Commander Castellanos. Terms include daily physical training, 0500 to 0700, supervised by Lieutenant Cross. Weekly ethics seminars with Commander Castellanos. 100 hours community service. Public apologies to Cadet Torres and to this academy. Mandatory mentorship of incoming female cadet class. Zero tolerance enforcement. Any violation, any failure to meet standards, any reoffense results in immediate expulsion with dishonorable discharge. He paused, looked at the four. You have 10 seconds to accept or decline this sentence. Declining results in immediate expulsion. Accepting commits you to 3 months of the hardest work you've ever done. Choose. Jackson spoke first. We accept. The others nodded, agreement unanimous. Richardson's gavel struck, sound echoing, final, binding. So ordered. Report to Lieutenant Cross tomorrow 0500. Dismissed. The following morning brought rain, cold, persistent, the kind that soaks through everything and makes misery seem permanent. 0500. Darkness still heavy. 4 cadets stood in formation outside the physical training grounds. Fatigue soaked already. Boots caked in fresh mud. The universe providing poetic symmetry. Lieutenant Cross appeared from the darkness. Elena beside him, both in PT gear, both looking like people who'd forgotten what comfort felt like and didn't miss it. Cross's voice cut through rain. Today, we start with a run, 6 miles, full combat load, 45 pounds each. You will carry rifles, ammunition, water, first aid kit. You will finish together or you will start over. Clear? Yes, sir, then move. They moved. Awkward at first. The weight unfamiliar. The distance daunting. The rain making every step treacherous. Mile 1 passed in silence. Just breathing. Just surviving. Just putting one foot in front of the other, while rain made vision impossible and cold made muscles scream. Mile 2, Jackson started falling behind. Stronger than the others, but carrying psychological weight that added pounds physics couldn't measure. Dylan slowed, matched pace, said nothing. Just ran beside him, silent support. Mile 3, Ryan cramping, left calf seizing, stumbling. Marcus, the quiet one, grabbed his arm, steadied him, shared some of his water, kept him moving. Mile 4, all 4 struggling now, cold and wet and exhausted and questioning every choice that led to this moment. Elena jogged alongside, not helping, just observing, calling out occasionally. Warriors don't quit when it gets hard. They get hard when it matters. Mile 5, the sun rising finally, gray light filtering through gray clouds. The world still colorless, but at least visible. Jackson's voice, hoarse, determined. Together. We finish together. They linked arms, all 4 literally carrying each other through the final mile. Stumbling, falling once, getting up, continuing. The alchemy of shared suffering, creating bonds that comfort never could. Mile 6. They crossed the finish line together. Collapsed together. Lay in mud together, breathing hard, soaked, exhausted, but together crosswalked over. Looked down at 4 bodies in mud, saw something that satisfied him. That's what warriors look like. The weeks blurred together, pain and discipline and slow transformation. Week 2 brought ethics seminars. Elena teaching not through lecture, but through questions. What is honor? 4 young men struggling to articulate concepts they'd claimed to embody but never examined. Honor is doing right when no one's watching. Honor is protecting the weak, not exploiting them. Honor is admitting when you're wrong, Elena nodded. Honor is also understanding that strength isn't about dominating others. It's about lifting them. Your fathers understood that. Time you did too. Week 4 introduced community service. VA hospital, old soldiers, broken bodies, intact spirits. Jackson met a 70-year-old veteran, wheelchair-bound, double amputee, Purple Heart recipient. The vet listened to Jackson's story, the assault, the reformation program, the struggle to become better, then spoke. Son, I lost both legs in Hughes City, 68. I'd give anything to stand again, to serve again. And you kids waste your service bullying each other, disrespecting people who bled for this country. That's not warrior culture. That's disgrace. The old man's words hit harder than any physical training. Jackson left that conversation smaller, quieter, changed in ways that couldn't be measured but were real nonetheless. Week 7 brought preparation for mentorship. New female cadet class arriving, 12 women, various backgrounds, and all volunteering for the hardest path. Elena taught the 4 how to mentor without condescending, how to maintain standards without cruelty, how to push people to their limits without breaking their spirit. Your job isn't to go easy on them. It's to ensure they have the tools to meet the same standards everyone else meets. Equality doesn't mean lowering bars. It means removing barriers. Week 9, mentorship began. Jackson assigned 3 female cadets from Texas, sisters whose brother died in Iraq, who wanted to serve in his memory. First day, one of them struggled with rope climb. Upper body strength insufficient. She tried 5 times, failed 5 times, frustration mounting. Jackson approached. The old Jackson would have mocked. The new Jackson thought about his father, about sacrifice, about lifting instead of crushing. Let me show you the technique. It's not about arm strength, it's about legs and core. Watch. He demonstrated. She tried again, made it halfway. Progress. Jackson smiled. Better. Again. By week's end, she completed the climb, celebrated. Jackson celebrated with her. Genuine pride, the kind that comes from building people up instead of tearing them down. Ryan mentored a young immigrant woman trying to earn citizenship through service. Her English imperfect, her determination absolute. He taught her military terminology, helped her study, stayed patient when she struggled, discovered that teaching required humility he'd never developed before. Marcus got a quiet, introverted woman who reminded him of Amy Torres. He learned to see past surface presentation, to recognize that quiet didn't mean weak, that introversion didn't mean incapable. Dylan mentored a woman whose brother was a SEAL. She carried the same pressure Dylan had carried, the need to honor family, the fear of failing legacy. He told her about his father, about Kandahar, about Commander Castellanos, about learning that strength meant vulnerability, that admitting fear was braver than pretending fearlessness. Week 12 arrived, final evaluation scheduled. Day 90, the panel reconvened. Same officers, same auditorium, different atmosphere. Richardson reviewed the record. PT scores exceeding standards. Ethics exams passed with honors. Community service totaling over 150 hours each, 50 more than required. Mentorship evaluations presented. All 12 female cadets reporting positive experiences, several specifically requesting their mentors continue in advisory roles. Behavioral incidents, 0 violations, 90 days of perfect conduct. The female cadets testified, one by one, crediting their mentors with changing their academy experience, with making them feel welcomed, not tolerated, challenged, not dismissed. Jackson's mentee spoke. He pushed me harder than anyone, but never once made me feel like I couldn't do it. He believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. Amy Torres testified last. When this started, I wanted them expelled. Now I'm grateful they weren't, because they proved that people can change, that culture can shift, that accountability leads to growth. The panel deliberated, briefly. The evidence overwhelming. Richardson announced, Cadets Cole, Harper, Martinez, and Webb have successfully completed the Reformation program. All charges are hereby expunged from Academy records. You are reinstated as cadets in good standing. Relief visible, tears from Dylan, quiet gratitude from Marcus. But Elena stood. Panel 1 have one additional recommendation. Richardson gestured. Continue. I recommend these 4 cadets receive honor graduate distinction awarded to cadets who demonstrate exceptional character growth in service to Academy. Shock silence. The auditorium processing. The assault victims recommending honors for attackers. They assaulted you. They did. And then they chose to become better. That choice, that commitment to growth deserves recognition. Not because of who they were, because of who they became. The panel voted 4-1 in favor. Jackson, Dylan, Ryan, Marcus, honor graduates. Not despite their failures, but because of what they did after failing. 6 months later, graduation day, blue sky, warm sun, families assembled, the pageantry of military ceremony rendering achievement visible and permanent. 4 names called among many, 4 cadets crossing stage, receiving diplomas, each one pausing to salute Elena in the front row. She returned each salute, pride evident. Jackson selected for Army Ranger School, Dylan accepted to SEAL Preparation Program, Ryan heading to Officer Candidate School, Marcus joining Special Forces Prep. 4 paths, but all leading towards service, and all redeemed from moment in mud that could have ended everything. Amy Torres crossed stage, received diploma, received Top Cadet Award, highest academic and physical scores in class, her speech brief, powerful. 6 months ago, I almost quit, thought I didn't belong. But Commander Castellanos taught me that belonging isn't given. It's earned and defended. Not just for yourself, but for everyone who comes after you. I'm here for every woman who'll wear this uniform after me. For every person who's been told they don't belong. For everyone who refused to quit when quitting seemed easier. Standing ovation. 300 cadets on their feet, applauding, recognizing, 1 year after graduation. Ironwood Academy unveiled new policies. Independent reporting system for harassment complaints. External review board. No more chain of command bias. No more victims facing their attackers as investigators. Mandatory bystander intervention training. Teaching cadets to recognize and stop harassment before it escalates. Making silence complicity. Making intervention expectation. Women in Combat Leadership Seminar. Quarterly. Taught by Elena. Bringing female veterans to share experiences. Normalizing women in warrior roles. Zero tolerance enforcement. 8 cadets expelled in first year for violations. The message clear. Culture had changed. Old ways were finished. Female enrollment increased 61%. Retention rate up to 94% from 67. The numbers proving what belief couldn't. That change was real. That reform worked. Elena accepted permanent instructor position. Teaching CQC. Teaching ethics. Teaching the next generation that strength without honor is just violence. That warriors protect. They don't pray. The Academy named its CQC training facility Hawkins Hall, honoring Master Chief Daniel Hawkins, the SEAL who trained generations including Elena, whose legacy continued through her teaching. The dedication plaque's simple. 2 words. The same 2 words he'd given her in Coronado Surf Zone when quitting seemed inevitable and continuing seemed impossible. Show them. Elena attended the dedication, saluted the plaque, the photo of Dutch, gray-haired, weathered, smiling that rare smile he saved for moments of pride. She whispered, I kept the promise. 2 years after the incident, Amy Torres completed advanced infantry training, top of class, applied for SEAL preparation program, one of first women eligible under new policies, selected for BUDS Class 364, the pipeline that breaks most men. That would test whether her determination survived contact with surf zone and sand and the instructors who didn't care about reform, who cared only about standards. Before shipping to Coronado, Amy visited Elena. They met at Ironwood, at the pull-up rigs, the same spot where Elena had been shoved, where 4 young men learned consequences, where everything changed. I'm scared. Elena understood. Fear was healthy. Fear meant awareness of challenge. Absence of fear meant ignorance of stakes. Good. Fear means you understand what you're facing. What if I fail? Then you fail having tried, which is better than succeeding at nothing. But Amy, you won't fail. You're too stubborn, too determined, too committed. Elena pulled small box from pocket, opened it. Inside a challenge coin. One side showed Navy SEAL trident, gold on black, the symbol every SEAL earns, the emblem of belonging to brotherhood that demands everything and gives meaning in return. Other side engraved, Ghost, BUDS Class 251. Elena's coin from her graduation. The physical representation of achievement earned through suffering most people couldn't imagine. This was mine, now it's yours. When you graduate, and you will graduate, you pass it to the next woman. The legacy continues. The chain remains unbroken. Amy's hands trembled, taking it. I can't. This is yours. It was mine. Now it's the coin's job to belong to people who need it. You need it. Take it. Amy took it, held it like sacred object, which in many ways it was. They embraced. 2 warriors, different generations, same fight, same refusal to quit when quitting seemed rational. 3 years after Elena hit the mud, Coronado, California, Naval Amphibious Base, the place where SEALs are forged, where the weak are identified and the strong are refined and the determined become legends. BUDS Class 364 graduation ceremony. 238 started, 41 finished. The attrition rate brutal, necessary. The trident isn't given. It's earned through demonstration that quitting isn't an option. that suffering is temporary, that mission matters more than comfort. Among the 41, Petty Officer Amy Torres, standing at attention, dress uniform immaculate, face showing pride and exhaustion, and the quiet satisfaction of promises kept. The ceremony proceeded, names called, tridents pinned, each graduate crossing threshold from candidate to operator, from person who wanted to be SEAL to person who was. Amy's name rang out. She stepped forward. Senior officer pinned the trident to her chest, gold on navy blue, the symbol carrying weight beyond metal, carrying legacy, carrying responsibility. First female SEAL in program history, not the last. 3 more women in the next class, the pipeline opening, the future arriving one graduate at a time. Elena sat in back row, civilian clothes, sunglasses hiding tears that came anyway. Silent pride, overwhelming satisfaction. The investment made 3 years ago in mud and blood and choice to reform rather than destroy had just paid dividend beyond calculation. After ceremony, beach, Pacific surf pounding sand where Hell Week happens, where weakness is exposed, where determination is tested, where Amy had proven everything Elena knew she would. They stood together, watching waves, sunset painting sky in colors that didn't care about human drama, but provided beauty anyway. I did it. You did it. Because you showed me how. Elena shook her head. No, because you had it in you already. I just helped you see it. Amy pulled out the challenge coin. Elena's coin, the one that traveled from Coronado to Ironwood to Coronado again, completing circle, fulfilling purpose. I'm supposed to pass this to the next woman. Are there more coming? Amy smiled, genuine, tired, victorious. 3 in next class. I've been mentoring them, helping them prepare, telling them about you, about what you taught me tomorrow. The cycle continuing, the chain unbroken, the legacy living not in monuments, but in people choosing to lift others instead of crushing them. Elena looked at the ocean, at the surf zone where she'd nearly quit, where Dutch had given her 2 words that became foundation, where pain had transformed into purpose. Master Chief Hawkins told me once that the only way to honor people who invested in you is to invest in others, to pass it forward, to make the path easier for those who come after. She turned to Amy. You're doing that. 3 women preparing for buds because you're helping them, because you're proof it's possible. That's his legacy. That's my legacy. That's yours now. Amy nodded, understanding, accepting, embracing. They stood in silence. 2 warriors, both SEALs, both forged in mud and surf, and the refusal to accept that gender-determined capability. The sun touched horizon, day ending, new one preparing to begin. Elena spoke. Final words, summation. The lesson distilled. They threw me in the mud thinking it would break me. It didn't, because mud doesn't break SEALs. It forges us. And now, because I stood up when it mattered, because I chose reformation over revenge, because I showed them strength is about lifting others, not crushing them, the next generation doesn't have to prove themselves the way I did. Amy finished the thought. They just have to be ready. And they are, because of you. The sun set, stars emerged, the universe rotating with indifference to human struggle, but providing stage for human triumph nonetheless. 3 years ago, Elena Castellanos hit mud under North Carolina sky, assaulted by men who thought she was weak, who thought contractors didn't matter, who thought women didn't belong. They learned different. Learned that Navy SEALs don't need uniforms to be warriors. That mud doesn't defeat people who've trained in worse. That underestimating quiet competence is a mistake that costs everything. 4 young men learned accountability, learned reformation, learned that becoming better is harder than staying the same, but infinitely more worthwhile. 1 young woman learned to fight system that tried to destroy her. Learned documentation matters. Learned that persistence defeats oppression. Learned that speaking truth to power requires courage, but changes worlds. An institution learned that culture isn't fixed, that reform is possible, that accountability breeds excellence, that diversity strengthens rather than weakens when supported properly. And one retired SEAL learned that her mentor's investment in her was an endpoint, was beginning, was seed planted that grew into forest, was legacy that continued through choices to lift instead of crush, to build instead of destroy, to pass forward the gift of belief someone else gave her. The mud was long washed away. The bruises healed. The cuts became scars that faded with time. But the change remained, permanent, irreversible, written into policy and practice in the hearts of people who witnessed transformation and chose to be part of it rather than obstacles to it. They threw her in the mud and discovered that mud doesn't humiliate warriors. It reveals them. Elena and Amy walked from the beach. Two SEALs, two generations, one legacy. Behind them, the Pacific continued its eternal rhythm. Waves breaking, retreating, breaking again. The persistence of water that wears down mountains given enough time. Ahead, three women prepared for buds, trained, studied, learned from Amy's example, ready to face Surf Zone and Hell Week and instructors who wouldn't care about their gender, who'd care only about performance, standards, the willingness to suffer for something larger than self. Some would make it, some wouldn't. The trident doesn't guarantee success, it guarantees opportunity, fair chance, level field. That's all warriors ask. Opportunity to prove themselves. Not special treatment, not lowered standards, just the chance to show that capability isn't determined by chromosomes. That strength comes in many forms. That diversity in tactics and thought in an approach makes teams stronger, not weaker. Elena returned to Ironwood, to teaching, to shaping next generation, to ensuring that Amy Torres wasn't anomaly, but beginning, first of many, proof of concept that opened doors for others. Jackson Cole graduated Ranger School, earned tab, became instructor, taught new Rangers about honor and accountability and the difference between toughness and cruelty. His father's legacy redeemed through son who finally understood what heroism meant. Dylan Harper made it through buds, earned trident, joined SEAL Team 5, deployed to same regions where his father had fought, carried legacy of Marines saved and SEALs who saved them. The chain of service continuing. Ryan Martinez commissioned as officer. Led Marines with humility learned through reformation. With understanding that rank requires responsibility, not just authority, that leaders serve those they lead. Marcus Webb joined Special Forces, found purpose in quiet professionalism, in thinking before acting, in questioning orders that violated values, in being the soldier who prevents atrocities rather than commits them. 4 men redeemed, not forgiven. Redemption and forgiveness are different, but given second chance and using it to become better, to serve honorably, to lift others. The academy changed, slowly, imperfectly, but meaningfully. Culture shifting degree by degree. Harassment incidents dropping. Female retention rising. The metrics proving what belief couldn't. That reform worked. That investment in people paid dividends. And in San Diego and Virginia Beach and Coronado and Camp Pendleton and every base where Navy SEALs trained and served, a story spread, grew, became legend, about the woman thrown in mud who rose up warrior, who defeated 4 attackers without breaking them, who chose reformation over revenge, who proved that strength isn't about domination but elevation, that legacy isn't inherited but created through choices made when choices matter most. The story changed with each telling, details shifted, but core remained, truth preserved through repetition. They thought mud would defeat her. Instead, it revealed who she'd always been. A Navy SEAL, a warrior, a teacher, a bridge between generations. A keeper of promises made to mentors who couldn't see their investment bear fruit, but whose legacy lived through those they'd shaped. Master Chief Daniel Hawkins told Elena Castellanos to show them. She showed them. And then she taught the next generation to show the generation after them. The mud washed away, but the lesson remained. Warriors aren't made in clean spaces. They're forged in difficulty, tested in hardship, refined through suffering that reveals character and creates strength that comfort never could. Elena knew this. Amy learned it. The next generation would discover it, and the one after that, and the one after that, the chain continuing, unbroken, strengthened by each link added through choice to persist when quitting seemed easier, To stand when falling seemed inevitable, to fight when surrender seemed rational. The trident passed from hand to hand, Elena to Amy, Amy to the next woman, the next to another. The coin a physical reminder that belonging is earned, that legacy is trust placed in future. That the hardest battles aren't fought with weapons, but with persistence and dignity and refusal to accept that limitations imposed by others define possibility. 3 years after Mud, 10 years after retirement, 15 years after Kandahar, 20 years after Coronado, Elena Castellanos looked at life built not on victories in combat, but on investments in people, on choices to lift instead of crush, on refusal to let her suffering be endpoint, on determination to make the path easier for those who followed. She'd kept the promise to Dutch, made sure next generation didn't have to prove themselves the way she did, made sure that throwing someone in mud revealed their strength instead of creating their defeat, made sure that warriors protected, that honor mattered, that second chances existed for people willing to do the work of becoming better. The mud was thrown, the lesson delivered, the legacy secured. And in barracks and training grounds and surf zones around the world, young women prepared to become SEALs heard the story, drew strength from it, understood that the path was hard but possible, that others had walked it, that they weren't alone. They'd face the mud. All warriors did, but they'd rise from it, because that's what warriors do. They'd show them. Just like Elena showed them, just like Amy showed them, just like the next one would. The chain unbroken, the legacy living, the promise kept. They threw her in the mud and discovered that mud doesn't break seals, it makes them.